So, Mayor, moving on to agenda item 26R, it's to authorize a water infrastructure finance authority loan to construct a reservoir/booster pump station. Securing Peoria's water future is another of Council's major goals, and this next item is part of this effort. Chief Financial Officer Sean Kendall, along with Civil Engineer Jennifer Soames, will present information on a WIFA loan for Council's approval to construct a reservoir and booster pump station in the north part of the city. Sean.
Thank you, City Manager. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having us here to present this financing opportunity for you. Jennifer Soames is our engineering supervisor. She is also the project manager for this project. So she's going to just walk through briefly where we're at with the project and what's going on with that, and then we'll come back to the financing itself. You're good.
Okay. Next slide. So thank you, Sean. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As Sean said, my name is Jennifer Soames, and tonight I'm here to provide some information on the project that this WIFA, or Water Infrastructure Finance Authority loan, will be used to construct. I believe that this is a project that you are all familiar with. It is the Zone 6E Reservoir and Booster Pump Station, since given the permanent site name of Sunset Vista Reservoir and Booster Pump Station. If you recall, this is the water facility that will store and distribute water from the 5 wells drilled with the CAP LPP wellfield project that the city has already secured a separate WIFA loan for and approved by Council last August. The wellfield area is bound by Loop 303 to the south, the Central Arizona Project or CAP Canal to the north, and just west of Lake Pleasant Parkway. The Sunset Vista site itself is shown on the screen, and it will be just south of the CAP and about 700 feet west of Lake Pleasant Parkway. As a reminder, the combined projects will provide critical system redundancy in the event of any surface water curtailment from CAP, as well as prepare for future growth in the area. The new site will include a 2.5 million gallon regional storage reservoir, an initial phase of capacity for the northern pressure zones, zones 5E and 6E, on-site pipelines, disinfection system, and all necessary electrical, instrumentation, and control equipment. Next slide. The first phase of the project began about a year ago with a pre-design, pre-construction services contract with our selected design builder, Felix Construction Company. This is where a lot of the early unknowns and questions were fleshed out before detailed design could begin, as well as coordination with our wellfield design build team. Then last June, our former engineering director, Adina Lunn, was here before you for approval for the next phase, or phases 2A, 2B, which includes detailed design, long lead procurement, and early construction. And so it is safe to say that the project is well underway. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Sean to discuss the details of the WIFA loan.
Thank you, Jennifer. So for this project, the total project cost on this is just a little over $23 million. We were able to obtain, thanks to the mayor and others, $10 million from the state toward this project, which left us with about $13 million to finance on this. I think, as I've mentioned before, we have several options when we look at financing, but for water projects, using WIFA loans is always a good option to have. With that, so we contacted them. The WIFA board approved the project for a loan. The loan would be, right now it's set at $13,088,000. It would be a 20-year loan. The estimated annual debt service will be somewhere around $1 million a year. We don't know the actual interest rate yet for the loan. That'll be set at the closing of the loan. But we do know that WIFA offers below market rates and that the rate will not exceed 7%. In fact, we expect it to be well below that. So with that, we are recommending approval of Resolution 2024-06, authorizing the execution and delivery of the loan agreement.
Any questions from council? Councilor Finn. Thank you, Mayor. Just one quick question. I'm assuming if it does go above 7%, then you would come back to council?
Yeah, we would come back or
Okay.
just not go forward with the loan
Okay,
at that point.
okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Do I have council, do I have a motion to approve 26R?
Move to approve?
Do I have a second? Please vote. And it passes 7-0. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So we're moving on to Agenda Item 27R, which is a discussion and possible action to approve a budget amendment in the amount of $2.2 million from the contingency to allow for the initiation of a design concept report to report update for the Lake Pleasant Parkway, Loop 303 to States Route 74 Capital Improvement Program project funded in the adopted fiscal year 2025 Capital Improvement Program. So Peoria is a growth success story, but at times growth raises complex issues. The Lake Pleasant Parkway is an example of that and needs to be assessed in terms of increased development and rapid growth in the region. Acting Director of Development Engineering, Dan Nissen, will present a budget amendment for council's approval to initiate a design concept report for the corridor of the Lake Pleasant Parkway from Loop 303 to State Route 74. Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Darwin. Good evening, Mayor, Council. It's nice to be here this evening. As Mr. Darwin mentioned, the item before you is a budget amendment for the Lake Pleasant Parkway project. I just want to clarify, first of all, that the CIP already has funded this project. It's programmed in years 25 through 27. So the budget request this evening is to forward the FY25, some of the FY25 funding to FY24. The DCR update, which is a study that we use to determine the alignment of the roadway, will provide a recommended design alternative, update the estimates, and provide an implementation plan so we know how we're going to build this project. Just a quick project overview. Lake Pleasant Parkway between Beardsley Road and the 303 has been widened to 4 lanes previously. So there's only one section of the parkway that has not been widened, and that's the 303 to State Route 74. The current roadway, if you've driven it lately, is a rural cross-section, 1 lane each direction. The majority of the land adjacent to the parkway is undeveloped and owned by the State Land Department. The last time the design concept report for the Lake Pleasant Parkway was updated was in 2010. And that study is almost 14 years old. So we've had some changes that have occurred out there. Specifically, we've had some new development, convenience store up by State Route 74. We've also had some utilities, put facilities within the parkway that wasn't planned in 2010. And we're concerned that some of the major stakeholders that will work with us on updating this study have changed their design standards and requirements, such as Central Arizona Project and Arizona Department of Transportation. We've also identified a critical need to accelerate the design. And in order to accelerate the design, we need to complete the design concept report. As I mentioned earlier, the design concept report will lay out the preliminary and final alignments for the roadway so we know what is going to be designed. So some of the major points that we need to consider is what's happening at the CAP crossing. In 2010, we developed 8 alternatives for the structure over the CAP. And since we've had preliminary conversations with CAP, they no longer are accepting of our 8 options that we developed back in 2010. They want us to start over. So we know we've got a number of stakeholders that we'll need to coordinate with. In addition, as you saw in the previous project, we have some upcoming water CIP infrastructure projects. There'll be some additional water lines, 2 water lines, a reclaimed water line, and a wastewater line that'll be constructed on Lake Pleasant Parkway. Back in 2010, we only anticipated one water line and one wastewater line. So we want to make sure we get a proper corridor established for all the utilities, not only the city utilities, but the non-city owned utilities, so we can avoid utility conflicts. And then lastly, we know we're projecting some growth in the corridor, so we want to be able to accommodate the anticipated traffic volumes. Some of the elements that will be included and looked at in the design concept report, as I mentioned, one will be the final alignment of the roadway. We'll also look at an interim cross-section for the roadway, say 2 lanes each direction in a bike lane. We will also look at the ultimate cross-section of the parkway, 3 lanes each direction and a bike lane. We will also look at access management, future median breaks, and traffic signal locations for the parkway. Drainage will be a big issue that we have to look at. Not only will we look at drainage for the roadway itself, but we have to consider where the water comes from off-site. Where does it come from as it sheet flows across the desert? How does it impact the roadway? How do we collect it and protect the roadway and take it to the nearest washes? We also, as I mentioned, have to deal with the CAP bridge. Not only what are they looking for in the design and avoiding their structure, but how do we accommodate the future trail that runs along the CAP? And we have to consider the aesthetics of the bridge. As I mentioned, we have some utilities that are going to be out there that we didn't anticipate in 2010. So we'll work with our city utilities and also the non-city owned utilities. And then one of the most important, we have to work with Arizona State Land Department. We have to determine the right-of-way needs for the project. We also have to determine the easement needs, what public utility easements, what drainage easements, what slope easements are required. We'll also look at the environmental requirements for acquiring the land. And we will have to work with other stakeholders. We know there's a couple other studies going on in the area. Maricopa Association of Governments just kicked off their study for State Route 74 between I-17 and Grand Avenue. One of the items that they are looking at as part of that study is to realign the intersection of New River Road with Lake Pleasant Parkway to create one at-grade intersection with the traffic signal. Today, those 2 intersections are about 700 feet apart, and I know we've had some accidents out there, so we really want to coordinate that project. And then we've been working with the Flood Control District in Maricopa County. We've been working to update the North Peoria Area Drainage Master Plan. So we'll make sure that what we do with the parkway complies with that master plan. As I mentioned, the project before you is already included in the CIP. You can see that the design is in FY25, land acquisition, which is the right-of-way and the easements in FY26, and then construction in FY27. The amounts that are in the budget currently are based on our most recent estimate. The DCR will give us more current estimates once we understand exactly what's going to be built. So we're asking tonight for a budget amendment in the amount of $2.2 million from contingency to the Lake Pleasant Parkway 303 to 74 DCR study update, and and move the 2025 funding to FY 2024. That concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from council? Seeing none. Do I have a motion to approve item agenda 27R? So moved to approve 27R. Do I have a second?
Second.
Please vote. And it passes 7-0. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.